Good morning and welcome to World News, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Zaporizhzhia. Alarming reports from Ukraine say smoke has been spotted in the cargo port area of the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Ukraine Energy Ministry warned that any provocations or military activity in the area could trigger, quote, unpredictable and catastrophic consequences for the entire continent. Ukrainian authorities are working to determine the exact location, the source of the smoke and possible consequences of the situation. At the same time, the independent Ukrainian news outlet Mediazona, in collaboration with the BBC Russian service, released a report confirming the identities of over 120,000 Russian military personnel killed in Ukraine. The report covers the period of February 24, 2022 to July 31, 2025. Since it was last update, more than 2,300 additional Russian military personnel have been confirmed killed as Russia wages its war of terror on Ukraine. US President Donald Trump said the next summit after his Friday meeting with Putin in Alaska will also involve Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. He noted that his presence wouldn't be necessary, but added that he wants the two leaders to meet face to face.
And I get along with Zelenskyy, but, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be speaking to Zelenskyy. The next meeting will be with Zelenskyy and Putin, or Zelenskyy and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelenskyy was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap, because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody, to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Tuesday that the upcoming Trump-Putin talks in Alaska are, quote, a listening exercise for the president. It's the first such meeting in 4 years, billed as a step towards possible peace talks. The remark, however, could be seen as playing down the expectations.
This is a listening exercise for the president. Look, only one party that's involved in this war is going to be present. And so this is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully bring this war to an end. Perhaps there are plans in the future to travel to Russia. And on Friday, the president will be meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, as you know.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Poland, Daniel Fried, says, however, that Donald Trump's upcoming listening exercise with Vladimir Putin should take a different tone. Speaking to TVP World, Fried urged Trump to be direct and blunt with Putin rather than let him control the conversation.
It's pretty clear that Putin is a master of obfuscation. He can be very charming. He can throw at you facts and figures which are all wrong, but he will try to dominate the conversation and run out the clock. I think that Trump should be very direct with Putin and should tell him that the time for games is over, the time to settle is now, and that we're not interested in a long explanation of the 17th century about Russia and Ukraine. We want the war ended, and if Putin doesn't do it the easy way, we will do it the hard way. We will squeeze the Russian economy and support Ukraine. I think he has to be blunt and direct with Putin.
In his nightly address, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said Ukraine has gained fresh backing from global partners. He spoke with leaders from Turkey, Romania, the Netherlands and Qatar, thanking each for the support of Ukraine and its people.
We continue communication with partners for the sake of common positions, for the sake of strong positions. I spoke with President Erdogan. We had a good conversation, as always with very proper accents. I'm thankful for the support of our independence, our territorial integrity, and our people. And especially for supporting the position that peace can only be sustainable with Ukraine's participation in preparing the relevant decisions. I also want to note Turkey's participation in our coalition of the willing. This is important, and we count on Turkey's active participation in bringing real peace closer, in bringing real security closer. I also spoke with the President of Romania and the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. There is a principled position of European leaders, a clear statement from the European Union, 26 countries all standing with us, in diplomatic efforts, in principled positions. It is clear who the 27th is and who is always against everything. Nevertheless, we are in contact with everyone, presenting our arguments to absolutely all. Tomorrow, we will continue work with the United States of America and with European colleagues. I also spoke today with the Emir of Qatar. I thanked for the help in freeing our children who were abducted by Russia. These were extraordinary mediation efforts. Hundreds of children have been returned.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke by phone with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to lay the groundwork for the upcoming Trump-Putin summit. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said the Alaska meeting is, quote, to see what's happening and shouldn't be considered formal negotiations.
Secretary Marco Rubio spoke with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. We have the fact that Sergei Lavrov, again, in a phone call with the Secretary, regarding preparation for the upcoming summit between President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. I'll remind you also that the President's not calling this a negotiation. He is not the one that asked for it. This is what, as I've equated to you before, his remarks were that this is to see what's happening, to see what's possible. So negotiation, I think, is certainly not the right word.
And we continue on the same topic. The White House has shared more detail on the upcoming meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. The meeting, previously announced for Alaska, will be held in Anchorage, the state's largest city. White House spokesperson Carolyn Lewitt said the meeting would be held in a one-on-one format. She added that it's still unclear whether Vladimir Putin will join Trump at a press conference following the talks. Carolyn Lewitt also said that the discussions are likely to be one-sided, as Donald Trump's main objective is to listen to what Vladimir Putin has to say. She did not rule out a ceasefire agreement might be put forward by the American president, but added that the meeting is mostly, quote, a listening exercise for Trump.
Way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace.
European and Ukrainian leaders will hold a virtual meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday, ahead of the much-awaited Trump-Putin summit this Friday. NATO Secretary General will also attend the conference hosted by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. An initial video conference with President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and the leaders of Germany, Finland, France, Britain, Italy, Poland and the European Union is scheduled to take place at 2 p.m. Central European Time. At 3 p.m., Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance are expected to hold talks with European leaders. An hour later, at 4 p.m., the so-called Coalition of the Willing, a group of countries who support Ukraine, will hold a meeting. The German Chancellor is expected to host a press conference at 6 p.m. Central European Time on Wednesday. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk will take part in the meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and European leaders ahead of the meeting with Vladimir Putin. The news was confirmed by the Polish government spokesperson.
Schwabka said Poland firmly opposes any U.S.-Russia talks on Ukraine that exclude Kyiv. He emphasized that Europe must act in solidarity and be directly involved in all discussions affecting the region. According to European Commission spokesperson Arianna Podesta, the initiative to talk with Trump was brought forward by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The discussions will also include Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. The EU has also announced it will push for security guarantees for Ukraine, including Kyiv's ability to defend itself in the future.
Russia has won the war and Ukraine has lost it, said Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban ahead of the summit between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Orban added that the only question that remains is when Western countries recognize this fact and what consequences it will have. According to the Hungarian Prime Minister, Ukraine is avoiding capitulation only because it continues to receive Western weapons and financial support. In Orban's view, Europe would be better serve its interests by negotiating the continent's future with Russia on its own. He also criticized the EU for using the war in Ukraine to, quote, take away powers of member states by Brussels institutions. Regarding Ukraine's possible EU membership, Orban said it should never be granted because Hungary's interests are opposed to it. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un spoke by phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin about developing even closer ties. According to Reuters, Putin also briefed Kim on his upcoming meeting with Donald Trump. As stated by media reports, Vladimir Putin expressed appreciation for North Korea's help in pushing Ukrainian forces out of the Kursk region. North Korea has dispatched over 10,000 troops to support Russia's campaign in western Russia during the war with Ukraine and is believed to be planning another deployment, according to South Korean intelligence assessments. A Ukrainian Defense Ministry official has been charged with accepting a bribe from a housing developer worth more than $1.3 million. Authorities allege that an acting head of one of the Central Territorial Departments orchestrated a plot to help a developer secure a contract for a construction project in the Ukrainian capital. According to a press release from the Ukrainian National Anti-Corruption Bureau, the contract involved the development of housing for military personnel. The official allegedly set up the bribe in 3 phases: an initial payment of $100,000, a second payment of $400,000 upon signing the contract, and final payment of $800,000 after the first stage of construction is completed. The official has been charged under Ukraine's criminal code with receiving an undue advantage in an especially large amount. No information has yet been provided about the fate of the developer allegedly involved in paying the bribe. A Saturday concert by Belarusian rapper Max Korж in Warsaw turned controversial after police detained over 100 people amid violence and the display of a Ukrainian insurgent army flag. The unrest may have overshadowed a joint anti-Putin message from the Russian-speaking diaspora, said Rafał Pankowski of the Never Again Association. Have a listen.
What is the big story and the big message of that concert is the fact that thousands and thousands of young Belarusians, Ukrainians, Poles, Russian speakers, also probably Russian exiles, they came together at the concert with an anti-Putin, anti-war message. And I think this is wonderful. And this is something that somehow we overlook, just focusing on the incident with one banner, as unfortunate as it is. So I think it's remarkable that there are hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian refugees in Poland, but there are also tens of thousands of Belarusian political refugees in Poland, and there are also Russian anti-war exiles in Poland today, and this is the kind of diaspora that I think we should cherish, we should be proud of.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has proposed easing border crossing laws for Ukrainians under the age of 22. The move is aimed at discouraging young Ukrainian men from leaving the country before their 18th birthday. Martial law in Ukraine imposed during Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022 forbids men between the ages of 18 and 60 from leaving the country, leading many 17-year-olds to travel abroad to secure freedom of movement. While only those above the age of 25 are eligible for conscription, the restriction applies to all men of age under 60. The mass exodus of young Ukrainians has led to the lowest higher education enrollment figures in the last 9 years. President Zelenskyy said he hopes the initiative will help many young Ukrainian men maintain ties with Ukraine and pursue their education primarily in their home country. And with this, we conclude our news update. Thank you for watching. World Talks with Anna Kalczynska coming up next.